Hello there, Star Wars fans. Welcome to Flying Casual. This is our monthly hangout with our Patreon members, our 14th installment. Nettie reminded me we've been doing this over a year now, which is just crazy. I have no idea. I have no concept of time. I had no idea what episode we were on, but this is Council 14. We've got Brent, Scotty, Rob, Nettie, and Luke has joined us for this council session. A couple of our Patreon members are out today, but we got a good group here going. Not much Star Wars news. Well, there's a little bit. We'll get into a little speculation here, and I call it speculation because nothing's confirmed yet with some of these reports coming in and out of Twitter or LinkedIn or Tumblr, wherever these rumors are coming out of. But we do have a couple topics to talk about today. No, it's not WandaVision. One is not WandaVision, though. It's a very hot topic right now. And I am enjoying it so much, and I love what Marvel's doing. But it's a cause for good conversation because we see Marvel has this really great model with their films and their television series. And obviously, being a Disney company, one may think that Star Wars may be following in those footsteps. We've seen them, I don't want to say abandon films, but they've definitely put the films on the back burners and have just, full-fledged just went for their television series on Disney Plus, and they should. I think The Mandalorian is one of the most popular and successful TV series, especially on a streaming platform. So why not? Why not profit off of that? Why not make more spin-offs as we know we're getting with Ahsoka and other shows, Rangers of the New Republic, all this stuff. So yeah, it's got Nettie thinking. Nettie, you're a big WandaVision fan. Maybe a little behind at this point. Am I right?
Yeah, really enjoying it so far. Haven't caught that new episode yet, but gonna watch it tomorrow with some friends, so can't wait.
You could safely watch, just stay in this conversation without it being spoiled. So it seems like they have genius writers. They also have, source material that they make references from. Scotty's kind of mentioned that earlier. They don't necessarily follow the comics to a T, but they have a nice base source material that they inspire from and then often write original stories from that. Star Wars doesn't necessarily have anything like that. They do. They have older stories, right, that they'll sometimes pick and choose things from, but not to the extent that Marvel does. So Nettie, are you thinking that this is something that Star Wars is going to try to tap into, that we're going to get this whole expanded, that the EU is going to become Disney Plus? Like maybe that is exactly what they're doing here, putting the EU kind of on film. You'll probably never see Ahsoka in a major motion picture, but this kind of expanded universe could actually come to us via Disney Plus. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking something along those lines. Primarily just, everything they announced back on Investor Day. I mean, they announced like 10 plus shows, so yeah, they definitely have a lot in the works, and it definitely seems like we're kind of staying around the time period of the Skywalker saga, but kind of getting away from the Skywalkers themselves. So it definitely seems like they're kind of building it out here. So I didn't know if they were kind of taking some cues from that MCU storytelling. I kind of saw it as that, but.
You mentioned so full disclosure, us council members have a shared Google Doc that we bounce ideas off of each other, and some of us are more, some of us contribute more than others. I often do not, because Mike's off the cuff. He doesn't tend to put things to paper. It kind of just spits out of his mind in a non-coherent manner. But Nettie, you mentioned that there is some good and some bad of the MCU storytelling, and I'm wondering if maybe that's giving you some apprehension if Star Wars kind of is going to follow in their footsteps. So what is some of that bad in the MCU that you think is kind of going on there?
Yes, I think the problem that I was referring to, primarily the biggest con I see, is you get so much material then, and if you miss one of them, sometimes you can be completely out of it. Like going to the MCU, I know my brother, he wasn't a huge fan, so like he saw Civil War before seeing Age of Ultron, so like he had no idea who Vision was. So there's stuff like that in there that obviously Star Wars is doing a little bit of that now with like the Mandalorian, like the Darksaber and all of that. But as we continue to grow, I just feel like that's going to be a continual problem. And even the High Republic, we were talking before we logged on, that because there's novels and comic books and different age ranges of novels, sometimes it can be hard to keep up with. So it's one of those things that it's awesome we're getting so much material, But if it's all tied in so well, is it going to be a problem if we miss one? That's just kind of the con I see with it.
Scotty, I think Nettie's bringing up a great point, and you as a connoisseur of information coming through from several, franchises, you like to digest a lot of that. It feels like Star Wars even has a bigger, there's a bigger hurdle there in Star Wars because they flat out said when they purchased the property from George Lucas that, the comics, the books, everything is the freaking Vanity Fair articles or whatever, they're going to matter. So they've got, it seems like an even a bigger hurdle. Is this something that could hurt people? I mean, a lot of people didn't even know who Bo-Katan was in The Mandalorian. They're like, why should I care who this chick is? It feels really dramatic that she took her helmet off. I have no idea who the hell she is. Could this be a hurdle that, maybe Star Wars is digging a little too deep?
Well, that's the thing. Like, they either need to dig as deep as they can possibly go or don't try. Like, do your own new stuff because, all these shows, even Andor, the show's got a lot to prove, I feel like. I saw an article, it's got 200 named characters.
Let's go.
And maybe they're all, kind of ancillary in the background stuff, but if they're going to do that kind of stuff and that's what they're going to showcase as, okay, this is what we're doing with this show and that's the stuff they're talking about, I'm excited. I hope that fans are going to like it. I don't know. It's really hard to say. There's already a whole sect of people that refuse to say Leslie Headland. They just refer to her as Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant. So, good luck with Acolyte. I don't know, So, but man, I hope so.
Yeah, Luke, you also can consume a lot of source material in a short amount of time. I'm talking books and comics, but I feel like even for us, this High Republic series just started, and I feel like I'm already overwhelmed and a little bummed out that I'm so behind. Yeah, I'm a little slower reader than your average, probably 8th grader, but I just feel like there's so much coming at me at once, phrasing. But are you feeling that way as well?
I'll take it in stride. I gotta say a hello, boys, to everybody this evening.
Still need to clip that out.
I gotta say the force is really strong with me. I've been away from the council for a while, out wrangling Gundarks and whatnot. And
amen.
I was called back to the council just to discuss a comparison of the MCU strategy to Star Wars because I'm so well versed in the MCU. I got it all down. That classic mistake Nitty was talking about.
Luke is lucky I didn't throw the first question to him. I feel like I would have
the Civil War before the Vision. You got to watch Vision first. So
you have to. You got to see Vision first.
So I'm clearly an expert here. But no, Star Wars I can talk about. Star Wars. Yeah. The amount of material hasn't fazed me yet. When you see that the investor presentation with all the shows, it was like, holy hell, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And there's all this fear of Star Wars fatigue because we got this idea that when Solo came out within 6 months of The Last Jedi, everyone just said it was too much, too fast. I think there's a lot more going on than that. And so I don't think there's much to fear there. A lot of these series are going to be more limited. Like the old school television model in the US was 25 episode seasons. And that's just not the way that things were done on premium cable or when you got into all the AMC shows that were huge. It's 10 to 12 episode seasons.
Yeah.
So that lasts 2 to 3 months at a time. So you can run 3 shows a year or something like that. And not overlap them. The books are coming thick and fast there too, though, and that's where I think you either want to keep up with it and you devote the time to do that, or you say I'll pick and choose a few here and there, the ones that really grab me, and I don't think you're going to be hurt that much in your viewing experience by taking that approach with all the novel material.
Yeah, or the day a novel releases or an embargo is lifted, just go on YouTube and there's 50,000 reviews of it already somehow of the book. You don't even have to read it nowadays. People just break it down for you. Brent, how much is too much, man? I feel like especially I don't know about you guys, it's a recession here in the Canterbury household still. It's hard to get hold of all this stuff, all this publishing, and Disney Plus ain't the cheapest thing ever. But is it too much? I mean, are us sweaties just gonna be the only ones who can enjoy Star Wars because casuals just can't keep up with it?
No, I think it'll be fine. I mean, if you're just talking about the casuals watching, on the TV shows, that'll, they're going to tie all that together in a way that you don't have to know all the other stuff that's going on. I think that'll be fine. The High Republic stuff, I just think it's just going to be tough keeping them straight. So you read them in the proper order. Because right now, we were talking earlier, I think there's 4 books currently. There's the main novel and 3 young adulty kid type novels that have released in the last 2 months. And it's like, which one do I need to read next? Just so, they're kid novels that may not be anything, groundbreaking in there or whatnot. But I don't want to be, have a little spoiler thrown in because I read one story that I should have read first. Right? I read that one second or vice versa.
Yeah.
But, other than that, it's going to be great. And I have no problems with it whatsoever. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and then that High Republic series, we also got, I think they're on their 3rd issue of their main comic line now too. So it's like, I bought the first comic not understanding the order. I started reading, I was like, this makes no sense. And they're like, well, you got to read Light of the Jedi first. And I'm like, well, Jesus, okay, I guess I'll stop yelling at me. I guess I'll do it. I'll put this aside and I'll pick it back up later. Rob, how about you, man? I'm gonna go on a limb and say that this isn't too much Star Wars for you. Am I right?
No, this isn't too much Star Wars. There just isn't enough. But we see what Disney is doing. Disney's giving us content. Finally, somebody's going to give us content of what we want to know, which is the backstory. And I'm happy, like a lot of you have to be also happy too, because them announcing that many shows means that's that many books and comics we don't have to go buy and read as well. Yeah. So we're able to consume that, and the average person is able to consume that. Go back to The Mandalorian, and when we were talking earlier about Bo-Katan, or you were, and taking the helmet off and people not knowing who that is. One, that'll also get them to go back and watch the Clone Wars, but also it introduces her into The Mandalorian. So even if they don't go do that, they'll still stay up to par with who she is going through that. Now, we've all said this for a long time, that we're getting a lot of content. We know maybe the average person cannot keep up. Maybe the average person has, a lot of other stuff to do, games to play, because, we're going to get that Fallen Order 2, which is not forgetting about that. We're getting a game that has another storyline that's going to further Siri and Cal as well. So we've talked about this stuff, but to bring it all in and to watch it and to be able to take it in, that's probably the greatest thing that we've always ever wanted. We don't care that we don't get Abeloth. I just want more explanation to what Disney wants to create as their EU. And if this is their EU and going through the High Republic and learning about all of that and then going forward from there and then getting all these shows, if this is their EU, what do we got to lose, boys? Let's bring the pain, dudes. Let's watch it all.
Bring
Rob
the pain.
Abeloth. I think everyone finish your beer.
Everybody, we have a drinking game here on Flying Casual, and I think is it to take a sip or is it finish the beverage?
No, yeah. Finish.
Yeah, he said finish it. It's finished. But I gotta agree, man. Spit it out, man, guys. This is what we want. If people can't keep up, that's all right. They can listen to this podcast and get caught up from us, right?
That's fair. And Rob, I wouldn't lose hope. I from what I'm hearing, you guys know me. I'm a bit of a scoops guy. I got a lot of inside. I feel like I'm the only podcaster that doesn't, kind of tout that little nugget. But I got a lot of inside information on Lucasfilm, and I'm seeing Abeloth, a Star Wars story, is something that they're messing with here. So don't hold me to it. Hey. But we'll see. It's not Lucasfilm confirmed, but it's crazy because I feel like whatever's going to happen, Star Wars fans are going to bitch. I feel like they're the hardest people to please. In the 90s, when there wasn't much content, they call it the dark times, right? Mm-hmm. Not enough Star Wars content. Then you get the Timothy Zahn thing, and people are just, it's a great series, but people just treat it like it's the Holy Trinity or something, just like, it's fine. It's a great story, but that was what they had at the time, and so it means that much to them now. And anything far from that, it's like that's not my Star Wars. So now we're getting a lot, and people may be complaining about that as well. But you won't find me complaining. I'm enjoying it. It's just difficult for me to keep up with some of the novels because it's just, hey, it's life. Someone has to tile the shower. It ain't tiling itself. So I guess I could, have Holly read the novel to me while I tile. I don't know how would she help out? We'll see. So yeah, I actually got duped the other day on Twitter. Full disclosure again, guys, I feel like I have to say I'm not really good with Twitter. I really don't understand how it works. I don't know how to stand people. I don't know what it means to retweet, but I got duped. Some account made their name look like Star Wars, even had a check mark, had the Star Wars logo, and they tweeted out that Padme Amidala and the Handmaidens were getting a show on Disney Plus. And I freaked out. I was like, Holly, check this out. And I showed her. She's like, what? And I retweeted that son of a bitch. Well, I don't know what caused something felt unsettled in the Force. And I thought, oh my God, I'm one of those people that just doesn't really, do their due diligence and check into these things. And I just retweeted that shit. Like 30,000 other people had too. And I went back onto our Twitter profile. I think that's what it was. And saw that the name had changed, what I had retweeted, and the picture, and everything. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. So you got to be careful, because I was like, wait a second, that has huge implications. Is Natalie Portman coming back? I had a whole conversation ready for a podcast. Thank God I went back and checked those sources, and then it was totally made up and fabricated. So you got to be careful, because it seems like there's a lot of shows coming out, but I guess not a Padme one, but there is a trilogy of books. Check them out; they're great.
I'm gonna bow out of here, you guys. You guys have yourself a nice evening. I may jump back in later if I get a chance.
All right, Brett. Sounds good. Fraser.
Brett, man. Thanks.
See
you, buddy. Nettie, speaking of the future of Star Wars, so we're hopeful that we'll have some good storytelling and everything will just make sense and it'll work just kind of like that MCU is doing there on Disney Plus, and even I guess their Netflix stuff too. I didn't get a ton of that Netflix material, like Luke Cage and things like that. I think it was decent storytelling. It just and it was somewhat accessible. I mean, it was on Netflix, but it just didn't seem to hit like this new stuff is now on Disney Plus. But speaking of the future, you also mentioned in our shared document the Broom Boy. I feel your pain on this one. I feel like the Broom Boy isn't getting enough recognition here. We were kind of led to believe that maybe there'd be this new Order of Jedi, and we really didn't see anything about that in the Rise of Skywalker. So I got to ask you, what brings that thought up? Like, I mean, are you hoping for an episode 10, in the future? Like, where's that coming from?
I think it was just a thought in the back of my head at one point that, that thread never really went anywhere, because I'm glad Luke showed up tonight, since that way I won't be the only one just gushing about The Last Jedi, maybe. And see, like I've said, that's one of my favorite movies, probably my favorite of the new trilogy, and I was just thinking about it at one point, and then that scene just popped into my head, and I'm like, that didn't go anywhere, and I didn't necessarily expect it to in, Rise, especially with a different director.
Yeah.
But it just made me think of, is it going to go somewhere at some point? And I just remembered during that last segment that I think there was a recent interview with Rian Johnson where either he implied or he dropped some hints that maybe his Star Wars trilogy's still on. He's just been really busy. I'm still taking that with a grain of salt because, I don't want to get my hopes up, but I really hope it's true.
That just yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm telling you, just do your due diligence.
Exactly.
If he was smart, but before they made that announcement, he was like, where's the contract? I want you to sign it. I'm going to sign it. I want 2 copies. No, wait, I want 10 copies.
Yeah.
But hopefully, sign the contract. Send it 5 years from now. I don't care.
Scott, is that something you want to see? Do you want to see a Rian Johnson trilogy?
Hell yes.
Right?
Hell yes. Whatever.
It may be the Knives Out 2 that we all want. He may just be all kind of screwing us over. And he's like, you know what? You wanted Knives Out 2? Well, it's actually in a Star Wars universe. I'm down. Give me some clue kind of, problem solve kind of movie in Star Wars. I mean, I still be down with that.
Dude, say what you will about the sequel trilogy. Less than 50 to 25. I'll go less than 20% of that was Ryan Johnson's damn
Exactly.
fault, man. Like
Yeah.
the dude can make a good movie, and if he had reign on writing a full trilogy of movies, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, he's a great writer, and you're right. I think a lot of the setup was handed to him, like the Luke on Octu, which don't forget that was also almost the exact same scenario that George Lucas was putting Luke Skywalker on, kind of really down in the dumps, isolating himself on an island. It was the same thing, and Ryan kind of picked it up from there, and I mean, there's a whole discussion about that. And,
on these creators when they go in there and it's like,
yeah,
okay, here's movie 2, here's what he did, here's where we want you to go, now write something.
absolutely.
Good luck. Good luck.
There's a lot that could be said on that, and I'm sure a lot of it has. But Rob, I don't hear you gush about Ryan Johnson much. Would you pay for a Ryan Johnson trilogy?
Look, I'm going to pay for a trilogy, whoever makes it, man. They can make us, we could do that trilogy. And people are going to go line up and go to that theater. And they're going to buy D-Box. They're going to go to IMAX. And they're going to watch it because there's no way out, man. We're going to do it. But I'm all in for a Ryan Johnson trilogy. It's probably not going to happen. I don't see it happening. But whatever we get going forward, I just want it. When we go back, okay, so we just talked about Luke on Octu. So my problem with Luke on Octu is, of course, because of my EU knowledge and knowing Grandmaster Luke. But I separate the movies. I separate what Disney has done and what has already been written in a book because I need to. I want to because I want to enjoy that, and I want to enjoy this as well. I want to take it all in. So when we go back to Luke on Octu, it's more of like a calm Jedi. So the Jedi really don't get so powerful, at least after the original trilogy sequels and all that stuff. They're not really powerful. They're kind of there to just meditate. And then Rey kind of took it to another level because Jedis normally wouldn't shoot electric out of their hands, and she's done that. So going forward, what we could get from Rey would be it would be amazing. And if he wrote it or anybody wrote it, I want to see it because this point going forward, they've got it all in their hands. And that's why I said one day she's going to get old. She's probably going to pass the torch. It's always a pass the torch with the Disney / George Lucas kind of thing, whereas in the books they just want to write up this badass person that either it be Luke or it be Jaina Solo or it be this or that Mara Jade. There's a whole Mara Jade clique. There's people that think Mara Jade was the baddest thing since sliced bread. Well, sliced bread with a lightsaber. And that's what I'm saying is what you take is they make it more personal. Luke took it personally what happened with his nephew, Ben. He took it and he left. He didn't just go out and become this huge super Jedi and then eventually turn his back to fighting Darth Titus and leave it to Jaina. Sorry for the spoilers, people. He took it a different way. And that's what makes, I think, movies and where Disney has always been with the writing going forward, the better story. You can't have overpowered people. You have to have them relate to the people that are watching.
I think that's a lot of good stuff there, Rob. And when you're talking about the Legacy of the Force series and the Fate of the Jedi series, Luke didn't confront Titus. He just did it. You could say all you want, this Grand Master, he didn't go and put down evil. He did it, right? He's off with his son doing other missions and stuff. And,
Yeah.
and the growth that I mean, it's been a long time since I've read that series. But the growth I remember is Luke just kind of letting his son grow up into a man, and him letting go was kind of his growth in that whole series. And I'm sure there's more that I'm missing, and people will shit all over me for it. But it's
They won't.
the sequel trilogy is just kind of taking that in a different direction, and that Luke tried to confront this darkness and he failed, and there's a different story there to be told. So they're way more similar than people give them credit for. It's just a different take on things.
Yeah.
But Luke, what I'm hearing Rob say is that in a sequel trilogy written by Ryan Johnson, he would want to see Rey's Jedi Temple and Rey teaching, Force lightning one-on-one or 101 to the new Jedi there, the new Padawans. So I mean, we don't talk about post episode. I mean, maybe we have a little bit, but we don't talk about Rian Johnson much either on the podcast. But is this a possibility? Is this just something that Disney hasn't given Rian Johnson a heads up and said, hey, you know that thing we talked about 5 years ago? It's not happening anymore. Are they just kind of dangling it out there because they don't want to, make things too problematic for him at this time, and just kind of people, we'll just kind of move away from it. We don't even have to really say anything. Is that what's going on, or is there a real possibility that he could get a trilogy and it may just be 2028 or something like that? We just have to wait.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on this. I'm still a little stuck on Rob's a sliced bread analogy. I think if you slice bread with a lightsaber, you would toast it the same time you're slicing it. So it's very efficient for breakfast.
True. It depends on what kind of bread you're dealing with, right? Maybe if you got like a nice white or something, it might toast up a little easier than a 12 grain or something.
Pumpernickel could do it.
Pumpernickel, yeah.
With Rian Johnson, yeah, he certainly seems to think, based off his comments, that he's still in line. And like Scotty was saying, like contract-wise, there's a contract out there somewhere that says something about Rian Johnson. I think with any of these contracts from these studios, Disney Lucasfilm probably always have an out that they can just walk away. I'm assuming is the way that the lawyers write these up.
Yeah.
So he could have a 1,000-page contract and they could still probably cancel his movie, I would think. Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. But if you think back, as long as Kathy Kennedy is at Lucasfilm, I think Rian Johnson has a very better than 50% chance of making a movie, if not more than one movie. She gushed about working with him on like any other director that's done any Star Wars movie since Disney took over.
Yeah.
So I think it's still alive as long as she's there. If she's not there, maybe that changes. But it seems like the time horizon is at least towards the end of this decade that anything like that would happen, because they're talking about maybe Rogue Squadron in 23, I think, 2023. Yeah. And then Taika Waititi, I think, is supposed to be 2025 as far as theatrical releases go. So it would be like 2027 at the earliest, which would be a decade after Last Jedi, which kind of give it some time for the wound what that created amongst a lot of fans to maybe heal a little bit and reintroduce him into the fandom in a way that would maybe be less volatile. But I want to I missed what Nettie said was a scene from Last Jedi that wasn't picked up on Rise of Skywalker, and I've been
Broom Boy.
Oh, Broom Boy.
There's a lot of hope there with him holding that broom shaft. Okay. It could have been a laser sword.
Yeah, for me that was like that was more metaphorical, like not that I would love to see Broom Boy's story picked up on and continued, but it was like representing that the Force is accessible to more than just a select few, and that the awakening that happened in The Force Awakens was more than an awakening in Rey, and that there's others out there who the Force calls to and can hear its call and answer. So that's what Broom Boy represented to me. It was Rian trying to say, like, this goes beyond the people that you see in this story that make up kind of the nuclear actors of this story. It's really about the broader galaxy is what I think he was trying to say with Broom Boy.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that was one of a lot of us. It was our favorite part of the entire Last Jedi story, is that the Force is it's in all of us, and when the time is needed, any of us could step up and rise to the occasion. I think that was the beauty of the story. And you can say all you want about JJ or whoever not kind of taking a dump on that idea with the Rise of Skywalker. That's kind of what happened. If you want to tie and make Rey a Palpatine, I really liked when she was just, I'm this vessel. I am good. I am hope, and you can be too. And when you make her a Palpatine, I get there's a storyline there and her rejecting evil and her hair. I get it. I totally understand. But to me, it's way more powerful in the direction we were going with Rian Johnson. So you're right. That it was, what a hopeful moment. And we're just like, wow, okay, where does this go now? And then we got what we got with Rise of Skywalker. I love the movie. There's a lot of good stuff there. But yeah, I think Broom Boy, he really meant a lot to all of us. We saw him for 2 seconds on screen, but it was this hope for, what the Jedi could look like in the future. And maybe a diverse cast of whoever. And this just isn't what we got. Gosh, yeah. Now,
You guys talking
yeah.
about the movies and stuff that are coming out, and I was just kind of looking up because I forgot like kind of what they all were. I do find it interesting that Taika Waititi's doing one of them, Kevin Feige is doing another one, and then this guy J.D. Dillard is doing one, and he's best known for the film Slight, but the guy that is helping write it, I guess, is also involved with Luke Cage and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So now you have 3 Star Wars movies where you have all these guys from the MCU already working on it. I'm going to just shoot a long shot out there and say that they're the ones that are going to be trying to build like further out into the timeline, not go back. Like I feel like they're going to be the ones, maybe because Ryan Johnson also claimed he wanted to he thought it'd be cool to do like the beginning of it all, like how it started. So let him do some craziness with that, recreate your canon kind of. But yeah, I think the MCU people coming on board are trying to help him build out further into the future.
Well, what they're gonna do? Give them Taika. Give them these. That's cool. Do the Rogue Squadron movie. That's awesome. Around 2030, you're gonna see a trailer, and you're gonna see, I don't know, Darth Malgus or somebody's gonna show up. It's gonna be very brief, and it's gonna say a Rian Johnson film. They're gonna have Rian Johnson probably write a story and maybe bring Kevin Feige or somebody in to help kind of build a world, an Old Republic world that differs slightly from what we know. But I think they're gonna try to go big and win a bunch of fans back that are fans of that material and that don't accept the sequels for what they are. I think they're going to try to do that. I don't think anyone would not be excited for something like that, just to see a tidbit of an Old Republic tease, and it's Rian Johnson writing it with some, I don't think Rian Johnson builds worlds. I don't think that's what he does. He's not a Kevin Feige. He writes a great story and he's a great director. I just don't know if he's a world builder. I think he's going to need help when tying things in, but he writes a hell of a story. So I think that would. What do you guys think? Is that something that's possible? That's kind of a risk, I think. But what a way to try to welcome him back. Because, like Luke said, I think we don't value enough the relationship that he has with Disney, and that you heard nothing. Remember when we were all bitching about Rogue One and all the reshoots? We got to bring in this director, and then JJ was having problems, and it seemed like Star Wars was going down the shitter. And then Rian Johnson, you don't hear anything. You just hear Kathleen Kennedy say, "Things are freaking. This guy is amazing." That was the celebration we were at. He was like a god to everybody there. Like everyone loved working with him so much. So I don't think we value that relationship that he has with them enough, and that a lot of people enjoyed what he did. It made the movie he made a shit ton of money. Like it feels like they're gonna continue that relationship on, and give him something that you may think is safe, but it's a bold choice to me. What do you think, Nettie? Is that something you'd sign up for?
Oh, I would definitely sign up for it. Say kind of like what Rob was saying. I'd probably be down to see whatever he wanted to write, but I think the Old Republic would be a really interesting thing for him to tackle, just because I'm not as familiar with that as some fans are. But from what I do know, it's a fascinating story, and like the character of Revan is one of the most like in-depth characters, and I know like he spanned video games, books, all of that. Like I think having a good writer like Rian Johnson bring him back in could be really cool. My biggest worry about that is because everybody's so salty about Ryan's work with The Last Jedi. If they announce that he's going to be working on something that's so beloved as the Old Republic, it's probably going to get some backlash, but at the same time, it's Star Wars fans. You get backlash no matter what.
Great point.
So I'm like, don't let that keep him from doing it. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's going to be people who say you better not ruin this, or I cannot. You're right. That's going to happen, and so it's too bad. It's too bad too. I really hope Star Wars doesn't get to a point where, people don't want to actually, work for the company. I feel like that would be terrible. I guess with Favreau and Filoni, which everyone thinks they pretty much run Star Wars now. I don't really understand that. They made one television show. Obviously, Filoni's been involved more in Clone Wars and Rebels, but let's just not pigeonhole ourselves to two creators here. There's definitely more creators out there, and we want fresh blood. We want fresh storytelling in Star Wars. It just always isn't received well, and that's understandable, but there's a lot of people out there that do. They enjoy it. So I don't know. I'm down for Rian Johnson being in Star Wars. I hope it's true. Haters can hate if they want, but what are you gonna do? So we did. I think Nettie, you mentioned Daisy Ridley. Did you mention that Daisy? No, you mentioned Rian Johnson. So recently, Daisy Ridley did an interview for her new movie, Chaos Walking, with Tom Holland, which looks fantastic. It's nice to see that she's getting some more work now. It's awesome. She, mentioned that she's always going to get asked this question. I feel until she's 70 years old, she's going to be asked, "You ever going to play Rey again?" So people continue to ask her when she does interviews that are even non-Star Wars products. And she says, I'm not opposed to ever revisiting the character, which is quite different from what we heard from her in her last interview for her last film. There's some hope there, I guess, then, right? I mean, you bring her back, you bring Finn back. Maybe we go on an epic adventure like we did in the Lego holiday movie. I don't know, something like that. But I think we'd all be excited if they kind of continued that story, and maybe Rey will be teaching Force lightning to our younglings and how to control it, how to balance themselves. I'd be down for it. I would be down for it. Another scoop, not mine, unfortunately. But apparently, Luke, I don't know if you knew this, but Aladdin is coming into the Star Wars universe. I actually don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if this kid played Aladdin, but apparently Aladdin himself, I don't even know the gentleman's name. Do you guys know this gentleman's name?
Terrible at pronunciations, but it's Mina is his first name. I'm not going to try.
Hey, well, we'll call him Aladdin because I have no idea who this person is. You guys brought it up before we went, and apparently we have Ezra Bridger cast. Luke, are you familiar with this actor?
I am. The live action Aladdin film is a big hit with my son over the past year or so. We've watched it several times. He really digs the genie, digs Will Smith as the genie in that one. So we listen to the songs when we're not watching the movie, and we've watched the movie plenty of times. So yeah, that's an interesting rumor. I mean, Ezra's been rumored.
Yeah.
Ever since
The
Mandalorian got going as somebody who could come into the Disney Plus world of Star Wars. So it makes a ton of sense. I mean, Filoni basically gave it away in that Ahsoka episode of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
She's hunting Thrawn, and when's the last time we saw Thrawn go into Purgleville with Ezra in a Star Destroyer?
Oh.
So it seems to me like, Ezra has to show up in that Ahsoka series. Sabine has to show up in that Ahsoka series. So it's not a surprise to me that Ezra is going to show up. The biggest surprise would be, who do they cast to play him? And sure, that guy, he did a fine job as Aladdin. I've never seen him in anything else. I don't know what else he's done.
What was the first Star Wars project after Rebels? It doesn't matter. Everybody was like, "Yo, is Ezra gonna be in that?"
Oh yeah, Resistance. Is he gonna be in Resistance? Yeah.
Yeah, weren't there people who wanted him to end up showing up in the sequel trilogy? A lot of people talked about that, didn't they?
I thought DJ was an old, Scotch drinking Ezra Bridger.
Yeah.
Maybe promoting a Dos Equis commercial. I don't know. That I really did enjoy that promotional material. He totally looked like he was advertising an alcoholic beverage, but aside from that. Yeah, so I have no idea who this actor is. I'm gonna be frank with you guys. Full disclosure once again, I had no idea the Aladdin movie actually could come out. The last I heard about the Aladdin movie was the controversy of Will Smith's face looking too much like Will Smith as the genie. Like, that's the last thing I heard about the Aladdin movie. And then all of a sudden I hear this supposed scoop coming from some Star Wars podcasters. Who knows if it's true or not. And I was like, that movie came out? I had no idea that this was a thing. Rob, are you familiar with this actor? Or, I mean, could, if we throw some blue contacts in him, could he be a hell of an Ezra Bridger? You might be muted.
Cheers.
Or maybe not. His mic just might have went out.
It's still glowing on the end.
We lost Rob.
Hold on. How about?
There you go.
We got me now?
Yep.
All right. Look, I loved the Aladdin movie. A lot of people did not like the remake because of the original creating such a magical moment, and it is
magical
completely
because there was
different.
a magic carpet, or was there other magic that I was missing?
It was, to me, the newer movie focused more on Jasmine, whereas the older movie, of course, focused more on Aladdin and his growth as a character. That's why they did 2 and 3 as well, because Aladdin had to be brought back down, they had to return to Jafar, and then Aladdin eventually had to meet his father to understand who he was before he finally married Jasmine. But the movie itself was more based on Jasmine and her character being strong and always standing in the way. So he would be totally good. And a lot of people hate the fact that Mulan completely changed everything from the original. But for me, I loved Mulan as well, because Mulan to me was what I've always adored, which was Mandarin films. Mandarin films are made to be that way. You're made to see someone erratically fall from a roof, do a cool kickoff of a thing that may be hanging, or slide down and do a backflip and land and catch bowls and do things. It's the most insane stuff that we ever could see. And that, I think, opens up and is another reason of where Disney is going, because Disney is going down this character path, as I brought up a minute ago. And I wanted to throw back to the Sweeper Boy and Cal have similar roles. They have similar roles, and I want to see those roles meet, because I think Cal is completely more like Luke. Like, he doesn't care, but he's also like Quinlan Voss, where he has that ability to relive the items and where that item has been as well. So I wanted to throw that in there to get your guys' heads going, because to me, the Sweeper Boy and whatever happens in Fallen Order 2 coming out with Cal, if he goes forward, that's another Jedi that has special skills and can become more. But flipping it back to what we were talking about, and, Aladdin playing Ezra Bridger with Blue, dude, he's got it all. He's got the charisma. I loved his little smirks, too. If you've never seen it, too, when he did a few of the things, he did little smirks and things. And I think that plays into Ezra's character as well, because Ezra always had that comeback. Ezra always kind of questioned things, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Did.
Yeah.
Nettie, have you seen the Aladdin film?
I have not seen the remake, which is really surprising to me, since the original is one of my favorite Disney animated movies. And deep cut for you, I was actually in a production of Aladdin at one point, like a stage play. So I don't know why I haven't seen the live action yet, but
Let's go. That's a live audience applause. What did you play in the Aladdin production?
I don't even remember. They were the bit parts.
I'm envisioning Nettie as one of the guards of the palace.
I was a guard at one point. That was one of them. I did a couple background characters. One of them was a guard. So
that's amazing. So I can't go to you on the. Can I go to you on the Aladdin connection here with this actor?
I was just looking at his IMDb page, and I don't know if I've seen anything that he's been in, but I mean, I'm all down for giving him a shot. And I mean, Ezra's basically Star Wars Aladdin when you first meet him. Like, he's that street kid stealing to survive and all of that. So it'd be kind of a similar role. So I think he could definitely do it.
That's a great point. I actually forgot the entire premise behind Aladdin. It's been a long time since I've seen that film. I'm pretty sure I only have it on those, classic VHSs with the plastic, cover that you could barely open up. I'll have to go retrieve that.
That's what makes Aladdin like the best movie ever. He's a diamond in the rough, man. He's the freaking king of. He comes from the dirt. He comes from it. He becomes the most powerful. Maybe that's why they're holding Ezra from us. Maybe. Because whatever he did with Thrawn and going into the void, where, of course, this is the only, at that time, when that was brought out, that was like one of the only glimpses Disney has ever did to something being a world between worlds and having like this whole Shadows Lake thing going on. That was their link. But they threw in time travel as well too, or more so because the way he saved Ahsoka as well. Spoiler for people that it's too late for that. You heard it. I just wanted to throw that in to jolt people.
Well, I love the connections you're making, and if this kid has, kind of a, maybe not a darker side, but we obviously see that from Ezra Bridger. But if you're telling me he's got that kind of like smirk down and he's got some swag, I can see that. I don't think he has blue eyes. Hey, we can change that nowadays. That's cool. So I'm down. You know what? Give this kid a shot. Then you guys reminded me of the entire premise behind Aladdin, and it sounds like it's right up his alley. So if it was believable, I'll freaking watch it. But you guys are talking about Thrawn. We haven't talked about Thrawn in a long time. With everything that's happened with Thrawn, and I don't know if you guys have read the newest Chaos Rising from Timothy Zahn, but with Thrawn, I'm trying to think what his role is going to be if he does show up in an Ahsoka show. Is he still going to be this big bad villain that we've only really known him from, or is he going to be a changed man? Could he be fighting alongside good? Scotty, what the hell is Thrawn's? Where's he at now?
Hard to say because the Purgles only had a hold of one ship, correct?
I don't know.
All left as like a herd, for lack of a better word. Thrawn's pretty much on his own, and we don't really know where they're even going, which is very cool because Favreau and Filoni, whoever picked that up, like they're going to pinpoint like the perfect exiting point. I hope that, like, I don't know, maybe we'll get like one. So for instance, like WandaVision, they've gone through all these episodes, and there is an episode that's going to be eventually showing a flashback. I hope that we build like the Ahsoka show on the slow burn, and then like maybe second to the last episode, it just opens up with like the Purgles just, and then we're like on the other end of it, and like just give me that whole episode of what happened immediate. Like they have to do that. Like give us that scene immediately afterwards. Ezra's there holding Thrawn, a couple of stormtroopers. Like that would be cool.
It could, Luke. I have a feeling that Thrawn may have come to his senses, and I think Ezra Bridger and his fascination with Ezra Bridger may have been a part of that. I feel like we could actually probably dedicate an entire first season of an Ahsoka show to looking for Thrawn. Just simply looking for him. Just like the Mandalorian. Everyone loved the freaking show, and 75% of the time, Mandalorian's just walking through the desert. Like, let's be honest. I love the freaking show, but let's be honest, that's a lot of it. Or flying, getting his ship fixed. So she could simply just be looking for him. And I sense a season finale confrontation, and he just says, you're sadly mistaken. And maybe she goes to confront him, and Ezra Bridger intervenes and says, no, you don't understand. We need him. Or maybe there's something else there. Maybe even Ezra's a little different. What are you wanting from from Thrawn, I should say? What are you expecting from Thrawn if we even see him in this Ahsoka show?
This is both a really simple, straightforward question and a hugely complex question at the same time. If I go strictly off what's been on screen, in Rebels, and even in Mandalorian season 2, when he's brought up again, you have to think just like pure bad guy. And, in pure nemesis. In Rebels, he's just portrayed as, doing the Empire's bidding. Just it's sort of sadistic almost too, in a way, and just exploiting all your weaknesses to dominate you. And then when he's reintroduced in Mandalorian, he is reportedly has this magistrate under his wing somehow. She reports to him, and she's a tyrant. The one that Ahsoka overthrows and defeats. She's a tyrant, subjugating these people on this world, and exploiting them, which hints that if somebody like that is reporting to Thrawn, he's also still, pretty evil. But then, if you've read the books, the trilogy that Zahn did in New Canon, about his rise within the Empire and joining them, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through Chaos Rising right now. It's the book I'm reading right now that I caught up with all the New Republic stuff, or the High Republic stuff I meant. And he's much more of a good guy, somebody you're rooting for, not an anti-hero at all, just a straight up kind of hero in this newest book. And in the first trilogy in the New Canon, he's a much more nuanced character as well, not this pure evil. He has these competing motivations between his native people and what's best for them, and how that interacts with the galaxy of the Republic and the Empire and the New Republic, and so on. So I'm going to lean towards he's going to be more evil, because that's what we've seen on screen primarily.
Yeah.
But if Filoni pulls from the Zahn books more, it's going to be more nuanced, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him take like we worked out our differences in the purgatory, and now we're going to team up on something, sort of thing.
Yeah, you're right. He's a complicated character, and he loves his people. He'll do anything for them, and he tends to find someone in these circumstances and tends to try to build them up and build their strengths. And I sensed an attachment and a fascination with Ezra, and I'm wondering if they're going to kind of build on that more, and whether they team up or something to get out of their circumstances. I don't know, but I feel like if they realize, that there's another threat out there, or that the Emperor, is doing whatever, maybe Thrawn could have a change of heart. I don't know. What was he directly? Did we learn in the Mandalorian that she directly reported to him, or that just she was a shipbuilder and she may have known his whereabouts? Was that? Did they say that she directly reported to him at that time? I don't remember.
Could I?
Just where is he?
Rob, I think you're muted.
What if Zahn, or not Zahn, what if Ezra was changed by Thrawn? What if Thrawn, during that purgatory, or that whole thing, what if he just had time with Ezra and he was able to change Ezra? Not from the Ezra that we did, but just to show that, hey, no matter what you do, there's always going to just be this. So just go that. I know it's not what we want for Ezra. I just, for some reason, wanted to bring that up, because we have to think about, what if Ezra changed? What if he did? What if he decides to go, you know what, Thrawn, I'm in with this with you. You seem to be somebody that works hard and seems to have to fight for everything that you want to do. But I've been the same way my entire life, and these people around us seem to just not care, because, again, this goes back to everything just being called the Skywalker saga. So that tends to generate some salty people, some salty things. I just wanted to throw that in there with that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely similarities there. I think obviously the Emperor was really using both of them. There was, for, Thrawn, he could navigate, some of the unknown regions and all this stuff. But then, with Ezra, he was opening freaking portals that Palpatine wanted access to. So they definitely both have been kind of, I don't know, burned by Palpatine is the right word, but they both have had similar experiences, and I think that's definitely worth mentioning. And maybe they see those similarities in each other, and I don't know. There's how many stories are there out there of two people that don't necessarily see eye to eye, and they're put in a precarious situation, and they end up maybe not even becoming friends, but they need each other to get out of those circumstances, and maybe a bond is formed. And who the hell knows? Maybe they stumble upon Exegol and they run into Darth Vader, and it's just like, holy shit, this is getting out of hand. What is going on? Now there's two of them. No, I don't think that's what they're going to say. But
two of them.
yeah,
Michael, to try to answer your question, she does refer to him as Ahsoka's asking the magistrate for the whereabouts of Thrawn, and she refers to him as the magistrate's master.
Master, okay.
So it sounds like she's under his command in some way.
Well, maybe that's like old information, right? Because I don't know. It could just, I mean, I feel like Ahsoka's kind of grasping at straws, right? To like try to locate Thrawn, because it's like, God, I mean, she'd have to go into some uncharted territory to try to get some information as to his whereabouts or where he even was before all this went down. Yeah, it's crazy. Nettie, what do you think, man? I mean, do we want Thrawn to be a good guy? It's hard to like hate him, and like Luke said in the books, I didn't necessarily enjoy Chaos Rising that much. I think I enjoyed the first 3 books of the new canon trilogy more than I enjoyed this one, but you can't help but root for the guy. He's just trying to save his people against unknown threats, and I mean, I kind of feel like he's due to be a good guy on film. I feel like we could do that, right?
Yeah, Thrawn's probably my favorite. I guess I don't want to say non-movie character right now. So I've thought about this a lot actually, and I think to try and get to what I've thought about, I have to drop a few spoilers for not the original Thrawn trilogy, the original canon Thrawn trilogy. So if anybody hasn't read that, skip this part of the podcast. But there's a couple of things that are mentioned in that, and it's the Chiss know about the Force in a way. For some reason, it leaves them. We don't know exactly how it works because it seems like people grow out of their ability to use it, but they know about it.
Yeah.
They call it Third Sight, I think, is what they call it. And the Chiss Ascendancy during the time of the Empire and when Thrawn is with the Empire and everything is basically at war with this unknown group called the Grisks. And from what I can tell, they kind of scare the shit out of Thrawn.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a moment in the first Thrawn book of that new trilogy where somebody's basically like, why are you serving the Empire? Can't you tell that they're evil? And he basically says there's worse evils out there.
Yes.
And maybe he's making excuses and all of that. And I do think Thrawn's kind of serving the Empire because they're the powerhouse of the core of the galaxy. But at the same time, it seems like those Grisks freak him out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's even a throwaway line somewhere in there that, like, Darth Vader even agrees they're a threat. They're just not at the edge of the galaxy, so he doesn't really care about them yet.
Yeah.
But the point is, I think those are a big threat out there. And we don't really know where they came from. I think we're getting some of that with the Ascendancy trilogy. I think that's where that's headed. But also, spoilers, we don't really see them end either in that Thrawn trilogy.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what happens, but they like defeat a good group of them. But from the sounds of it, there's like millions of them out there. So I've kind of had this headcanon that maybe Thrawn and Ezra end up at the Ascendancy, and Ezra sees this threat and sees how serious it is, and starts walking with the Ascendancy to defeat them, and walking as a Skywalker with his Force abilities, this Third Sight, to help them fight this unknown foe. And I have no reason to believe that. That's just kind of all headcanon. But if we go down that right, it is kind of a Thrawn being a good guy on screen. And I think it's interesting, too, because there were moments in the Thrawn trilogies, too, that, like, you can still kind of see he's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Like, there's a moment where, like, somebody, like, brings up the slaves of the Empire, and he's just kind of like, it's the Empire's property, or it's the Empire's thing, and, like, he's definitely painted in a good light, and, like, you empathize with him so much, but at the same time, he's not exactly, like, the shining hero that you need to look up to. So I think if they can capture some of that, I think it could be really interesting.
You're absolutely right. And that his priority, now that we're talking about this more, I mean, it feels like Thrawn's priority if he's thrust into a situation where God knows what, is going to be to return to his people. Especially if there is other stuff going on out there. So I love the idea of Ezra Bridger and maybe Eli Vanto. They got just a trio going out there and just saving the chiss. I don't know, man. I love the idea of maybe maybe not doing their own thing and we never find Thrawn, but it's him and Ezra, and maybe Ezra doesn't decide to leave. I don't know. Maybe Ezra is opened up and say there's more than this known world that I live in, right? That I can be useful elsewhere. I don't know, man, because that's what he saw in Eli, right? When there's more than just this kind of trivial life, this officer job you got going on. There's opportunity elsewhere. I mean, what if
Ezra goes back in time and changes something that he couldn't write back then? What if he chooses at that moment with Ezra and goes back and changes? And if they're going to be patties or something like that, why not go back and change something that would be so demanding? Maybe that's why he's thrust into that that role that Ahsoka's looking at and things like that. I don't know. It was just something that popped into my head. I just want to throw it out there.
Are you telling me that Ezra Bridger could go to the World Between Worlds and undo the sequel trilogy? Is that on the table?
He could, but I don't think, like, talking about Thrawn, I don't think Thrawn would do that. I think Thrawn would be more capable about going back and saving his people and making them more, proficient, making them better at what they could do. Like, that's the angle I was going at. Now, going back and changing the prequels, I don't think that can happen at all, because then that would mean that Ezra and Cal and Vader, which have, we already know all these meetings have happened. That's where you would put that, but at least what I'm thinking. But I just wanted to throw that in there, is like, what if they went back that? But now you just made me think about that too. So I don't know.
And the thing is, like, with the Chiss, I don't know about you guys, but when I was reading Chaos Walking, that movie hasn't come out yet. Chaos Rising, there's really surprising moments about the Chiss and just like how, I don't know how inferior they are to the Republic, but there's one key moment where you find like they don't even have like shields on their ships, and they get this technology from the Republic, and they're like, "This is amazing." It's like, what? The Chiss were supposed to be these like epic people, and if the Republic were to come and fight them, they'd be screwed. So I found that fascinating, and maybe Thrawn is talking about the Republic when he says there's a threat that's bigger than these rebels. It's the Empire, and I'm going to gain access. I mean, I think that's originally when we read Thrawn's the new canon trilogy that Timothy Zahn wrote. That was kind of the idea, right? That Thrawn is inserting himself into this empire to better understand it, because it could be a threat, and that was kind of his mission. So I don't know. I was kind of blown away by that. So Thrawn may have a lot to learn. I don't know, but don't let him get into that freaking World Between Worlds portal. Because and how much access to that does Ezra Bridger have, if any, anymore? I mean, does he? Is he the gatekeeper? I don't know.
Talked about that. We think he's the gatekeeper. We've talked about like how he might have been not the chosen one, but the chosen one to be the gatekeeper, which that's a big responsibility. That's when I brought up the whole thing with Mortal Kombat and the newest one in the Timekeeper and things like that. When that whole episode, quite a few casual councils ago, maybe 4 or 5, we were talking about like the whole timekeeping thing. That takes a certain responsibility. So again, it comes back to what responsibilities, what rights do you want to make, or what wrongs do you want to make right, and about them.
Here's the thing I love about what you said, talking about responsibility, Rob. And I know we're going to 20 different tangents here, but there's a I don't know if it's a young adult novel. It's called Force Collector. Wasn't that it wasn't a jaw-dropping story. Like this kid has force abilities, and you're like, oh my God, he's gonna become a Jedi. And we always say that. We're always like, we're giving them a destiny. You have Force abilities, you're gonna become a Jedi. This kid, spoiler alert, ended up realizing that wasn't really his calling. That his calling was to literally collect things of the Force and almost become kind of like a librarian of the history of them, so people could learn from that. And it's like, what if Ezra's purpose is different than becoming a... I want to see something like that, right? Like, it's kind of like the Avengers. Like, Doctor Strange has got this freaking time stone. He's like, I am the protector of alternate realities. Like, that's my shit. Spider-Man, you do Brooklyn, like, whatever you got to... Like, this is my shit. I kind of want that, because I feel like we pigeonhole Force users and, well, no, you got to have a lightsaber. You have to fight the Sith. Like, it's like... It has to be more complex than that and a little more complicated. It's such a simple story. I loved it because it was different. I'm like, yeah, this guy is collecting information so he can learn from the past. And obviously the Jedi didn't do enough of that. And their failures are, you could list them out. But I just love that it was different. And so maybe Ezra Bridger doesn't have to become some epic Jedi. Maybe maybe he is the gatekeeper of the world between worlds. I don't know.
Are we ever get a sorting hat? Like,
right.
Look, going to the library. Like,
yeah, you're in House Skywalker. You're in House Watto. Like, I don't like. Money. Like, the Jedi have to have like accounting guys, right? Like, who's doing the books? I don't know.
I'm CPA. I gotcha.
Nettie's could lead that house. So it was such a simple story, and there was no aha moment. So I was just like, man, that felt nice. Like, look at someone who just decided, that's just not for me. Like, it's in my lineage. Like, there were Jedi in my family, but like, that's just not for me, man. I can do more good doing this. And I don't think we see enough of that. Like even like Finn, like everyone's like, Finn's Force sensitive, give him a lightsaber. It's like, maybe there's something else Finn could do. I don't know. It's just, I feel like sometimes we just kind of pigeonhole people to be Jedis. Maybe they don't want to be Jedis. I don't know. Rob, you might be muted. I don't know if you had something to say.
No, I was just saying, there you go. Like, that's what it is. Like, their whole thing. Like, sometimes, like, we already know, like, Cal, I don't want to keep bringing him up, but, like, Cal, he fought with the lightsaber, but he was more about trying to find out, like, the origins. Like, that whole story with him, he was more about, like, going to the temples and then reliving those things, and then you get a brief pass into the Order 66 and thing. And then just going back, I'm not trying to call us out, trying to slam all beers and stuff. Some people and some entities don't use lightsabers. Maybe that really is. It's the weapon of things from the past. Like, to do something with the Force is to become with it, to become more powerful than you've ever been, and to understand where it wants you, because not everybody's a warrior, like you were just getting at. Not everybody's an archer. Not everybody's a sorcerer. Leia walked away in canon. Leia walked away from her lightsaber to be diplomatic, and she did the same thing in the EU, but she used her lightsaber. And when you were all talking about two things that happen that always don't happen, it's Leia and Han Solo. Leia and Han Solo literally always got themselves out of every single situation because of themselves. Whether it be Leia saving his ass, because there was plenty of times, and this is the Fate series, and he was like, I heard that lightsaber light, and I knew who it was. I was so in my glory. I was like, yes! And at the same time, there was times that Han Solo showed up to save the damn day. And that's just your calling, bringing up Finn, saying that he was more of a blaster rather than a swinger. He had that lightsaber. It wasn't his thing. He was always a gunner.
I mean, I didn't know swingers were an option. I get that's a swinging Jedi. Maybe that led to their downfall. No attachments. I mean, that was one of the things in the Jedi Code, right? So, yeah, that could be, definitely could be.
We've done a great job of sort of a lot of the background of Thrawn and Nettie, given the great stuff about the Grist. And Michael, you talking about the exiling from the Chiss ascendancy. At least we think that at first, and then it's really he's trying to infiltrate and understand the Empire more. But what they've done such a good job of is making these shows pretty accessible. Like I'm kind of curious what everyone thinks about this, being consumers of both Marvel and Star Wars, which I'm not. I asked some friends recently, how, from what I know, everyone found The Mandalorian very accessible. And one of its biggest successes is that it's accessible to a broad audience, and it gives the sweaties like us all these great connections and characters that we love come in. And I asked, some people, I know WandaVision is doing well, but I asked some people who knew better, is it as accessible to more casual fans who aren't as well versed in everything Marvel as The Mandalorian was to casual Star Wars fans? And what I've heard from several people is it's not. You have to be a little more sweaty in the MCU to get as much enjoyment out of WandaVision. So I'm kind of curious of the panel if they think that's true. And then that affects, if they're really trying to stick to that accessibility and broader enjoyment, I think that limits a lot of what they'll pull from the books for Thrawn. And that's, again, sort of reinforces to me the idea that his character will reflect more what we've seen on the shows.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Yeah, Scotty.
Well, I was going to say you're not wrong at all. Like, going forward, Star Wars is going to have to be very careful. Like I said, they either need to double down on this Thrawn stuff and the books that you guys have read. Like, they really need to dive into that. And, like, when we come out on the other end, Thrawn's there. He knows exactly where to go. He knows where the Grisk are. He knows where the enemy is. But I'm like, I wanted to touch on that too, and that he was talking about it, the greater evils in the universe. Like, we've only really seen the core galaxy. I think even in High Republic, and I haven't like read throughout all of it, but like only people I know of that have ventured into the unknown regions now are like Rey, Ezra, Vader if he ends up on Exegol, but like no one's really going out into the unknown regions. So Star Wars has that kind of like leniency now where that can be the new stuff they talk about. And I hope that kind of like the Nile are a hint at like what the Grisk can be like. And just the little bit I know about Martian Rowe and the guy who's like leading the Force and what he like the knowledge he has of the Jedi and how to tame them, for a lack of a better word. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but like guys like that are out in the universe, like those are the people I want to meet. The people that know about the Force like more than the Jedi know about the Force, and they're thinking 10 steps ahead of the Jedi. Like, I don't know, that'd be cool.
I'll tell you this, Luke. I'm not gonna spoil anything for Nettie because he hasn't seen this last episode, but I've seen almost all of the Marvel properties. Holly has not. But what I'm gonna tell you right now, WandaVision is a game changer for Marvel because the writing is so good. The writing blows The Mandalorian out of the water. Like, it just does. Like, it's just, I mean, one of my favorite episodes of Mandalorian is the one with Bill Burr and his entire kind of, transformation kind of as a person. I thought that was solid writing, but the writing in this show is so good. They have a foundation to go on in the comics, and that's when I know it's good, is because right when the episode ends, Holly and I are looking up on the Marvel site all these little nuggets of information that they're pulling from, but they're writing a relatable story more so than Grogu and Din's relationship. I mean, WandaVision is about grief. And you do kind of, generally you need to know the Avengers and kind of what's happened between these two characters. But ultimately, the story of grief is just so relatable and so it's different from other stories of grief in these stories, I guess I should say, in these comic book movies. It's just a completely different take on it, and the writing is so good. I feel like, honestly, I love The Mandalorian, but WandaVision's writing is blowing it out of the water. Like, the story they're telling is so compact. It's within 8 days or something. This entire story is. It's like, this is amazing. And they're filling in a little void of something I never knew I needed. The Mandalorian, I don't think I absolutely needed that story. When I'm looking at some character like Scarlet Witch, who doesn't have a lot of prevalence in Marvel and their big products, right? They're big merchandising. And even Vision and her aren't, very well-known characters, but boy, are they making them relatable. And boy, when, you see something happen to Vision, you feel it. A lot of that's, Paul Bettany, and Elizabeth Olsen we don't deserve Elizabeth Olsen in this world. She's amazing. It's such good writing. And I know it because Holly's fully invested into that show and knows nothing about what's going on. It's just, it's so fascinating. I would be interested, Luke, if you were just like, I'm going to pick up WandaVision. We're going to see, and then just get a little bits of information about Avengers. And I think it's something you would enjoy. I think a lot of people would. I might be in the minority there. Ned, you haven't finished, this last episode, but like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think I'm kind of in the middle between you and Luke's point. I think like the overall themes and messaging, like what you said, is definitely relatable no matter what, and they have done such a good job with the characters that I think anybody can pull that. But I do think some people would have a little bit of trouble having not seen anything with Avengers or any of the other MCU, just because there are so many references. And I mean, I love the MCU. I'm not really into the Marvel comics specifically, so like they're dropping things that like I don't have any idea where this is going to be leading, which is part of the fun for me because I don't know what they're going to do, and it surprises me. But I think that somebody definitely could be a little bit more lost than they could be in something like The Mandalorian. But I think, like you said, like that message of grief and how to deal with it is definitely something that anybody could latch on to. Though I will say The Mandalorian has its own grief. I mean, come on,
Definitely.
we got Grief Karga.
It's so true. You're absolutely right. And you're right. It's just I love what they did in The Mandalorian. I really do. And there is a lot of relatable stuff in there, and we've talked about that extensively on the podcast. I could not believe the depths that we went in such a short series of WandaVision. Even if you don't understand the powers that are, being used and where they're coming from, it's just, there's way more depth to it to me, I think. And every episode has just pulled me in deeper. And that didn't always happen on The Mandalorian. There was episodes I was like, where are we going? Like Din was walking for 20 minutes in the desert, and then a ship broke down again. And now we're fixing it again on another planet. Like that's never happened in 7 or 8 episodes, I guess, of WandaVision. I cannot believe it. So I don't know. I'd be curious to hear from more people about that. But they're doing the same thing that Star Wars is doing, right? They're trying to hook people into saying, hey, check out our other properties. You think this is badass what Wanda's doing? You have no idea what Thanos is doing. You have no idea what Vision is capable of. We have check out this other stuff. You don't even have to visit our comic books. Just check out other products here, because we're going to be making an entire new, like they're setting up for a new whole universe. And so those legacy characters, are important, but they're not really going to matter anymore. We've got a new age of characters and a multiverse that here's your introduction to it. We're going to mess with your minds a little bit. But there's some moments, just like with Bo-Katan, you're like, is that Katie Sackhoff from Battlestar? Like who is this dude that shows up on Wanda's doorstep? Why does this feel important? Let me look this up. So there's definitely some of those similar moments where you do have to be a little invested in it to kind of know specifically what's going on, but they're kind of opening a door to a whole new universe, and it seems very similar to what Star Wars is doing, especially with The Mandalorian. It just doesn't feel so much like an introduction because I'm so invested in these two characters, and it really is their story and their love story. With Din, I am, but I'm gonna make a bold statement right now, guys. This is bold. Honestly, we could not have a third season of The Mandalorian, and I would be okay with it. It kind of ended for me. And what's that?
As long as Grogu shows up somewhere else, is he gonna be a 900-year-old species that we only see for 2 years?
Yeah,
Very well.
There's definitely some there's definitely some loose ends I think they can tie up, and yeah, there's this whole interesting story. But I'm just saying, like, if it just went off the air, I think I would still feel okay about it. But maybe they'll blow me away, and I'll be like, "That was stupid, Michael. They had all this other story to tell." I don't know. Rob?
I just want to say, this sounds all great if they keep writing these two galaxies, these two universes together. But when you were talking about the multi-universe, we all know, what if they brought Jedi into the Marvel universe? What if that transition happened? Because it would make sense with, like, Kurt Russell's character, and, you know, he was a Celestial. So we have Celestials. We know they exist. We know people like other civilizations, like Thanos' civilization. It existed. We know that, you know, Thor's civilization, they existed. Everybody exists. They have their own thing. I'm not saying they're going to bring it together, but I could see it bring it together. I'm not going to see, you know, going forward, we're not going to see the Falcon and the Winter Soldier fighting Thrawn, but at the same time, there's that power aspect too. And I see similar writing on both sides. So for me, I think the similar writing is going to where they want to go for the future. Disney, aka, you know what I'm saying, is that they want to make the people more relatable. We want to make people relatable. Let's make WandaVision. Let's make people more relatable. Let's learn about Bucky. Let's learn about the Falcon. Let's make people more relatable. So let's have the High Republic. Let's have, you know, the Acolyte. Let's have Andor. Let's have. Everybody has a story going forward. I'm not saying they're going to connect through the multiverse, but whatever they do, I'm on board.
Rob,
Yeah.
I'd love it, but I think Feige just shot that down though, as of like a couple weeks ago. I think, right, Scotty? He said, somebody asked, and I think he said that's not going to happen. But what if Ezra Bridger goes to the portal and he's just, you know, there's Thanos getting ready to get that last stone. He's like, oh hell no, like, and just you know, I don't know. Who knows? But that would be crazy. That may be like a comic series. They tend to. I mean, they throw Power Rangers in with the freaking Ninja Turtles and shit all the time. So that stuff's gonna happen. But maybe not in Disney Plus. I think they'll probably try to bleed those two franchises dry as much as they can. Luke, I think that's a fascinating discussion. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see these two franchises kind of kick things off. I mean, Marvel has on Netflix, but that stuff wasn't as successful as these new shows are going to be on Disney Plus. It'll be really interesting. They're on the same platform, the same accessibility. Like, are they both going to be successful in really expanding their universe and trying to win over new fans? It's like Rob said, I'm here for it. I think WandaVision completely captivated me. I'm like, what's next, man? Like, what's next?
I think WandaVision, if nothing else, because of its accessibility and the fact that it's such a small, contained story with super heavy moments.
Yeah.
Like, that's what casual fans want. Like, and some of our favorite moments as like sweaties are some of the heaviest moments.
Yeah. Yep.
For instance, the Vader comic, when he just is meditating and sees Obi-Wan catching flame and he's about to say, I love you. And then he dusts away. Like, there's soap operas, bro. Like, your girlfriends should be watching. Your grandparents should be watching. Like, I don't know. I feel like on the show, like the TV aspect, I wanted to touch back on what you guys were saying about like all these shows and Andor. Like the phrase where he said, I've been in this fight since 6 years old. Like, all right, show me. Like, show me why this guy cares so much. So,
if it's a male soap opera, who's the Macho Man?
I mean, is Randy Savage even alive? I have no idea. It's been a long time since I've watched any WWE.
It's the Solo Man. Dig it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, every Friday, that's just what it's just like the Mandalorian. But you know, you got to watch out for spoilers. There's a lot a lot of good stuff out there. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to all of it. No, Flying Casual is not going to become an MCU podcast. Well, never say never.
At midnight on the Pacific Coast, because I can't get up at 3 a.m. every Friday for all of the Fridays until I die. Like, I can't.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to just say, you know what, like, it's now going to be Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, like, so everyone's got a shot to, like, you know, like, just watch the damn thing after work. Like, that would be
it's
normal.
Spoiled. Wake up.
Yeah,
8
yeah.
in the
There's
morning.
a lot of inconsiderate people. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but this is crazy. I cannot believe we kind of took this conversation in that direction. I freaking love it. I could talk about this crap all night. Is there anything else you guys got on that? I mean, that was what a awesome conversation. Yeah, it was unexpected. I mean, we were kind of everywhere, and that's what happens. So who knows? Maybe Flying Casual will expand and start talking about Marvel. I don't know. Luke's gonna have a lot of catching up to do then. We're gonna have to really, I mean, he's got to dedicate weeks and weeks to MCU products. But
it actually might be hilarious if you get Luke, who is unknowledgeable at all, just asking you questions about like the most basic things. Like,
it seems like a segment. Yeah, like I think Luke, I think this could be something that we do. I'm
trying to figure out if there's a Wanda in WandaVision. I've heard Scarlet Witch, Vision. Where's the Wanda?
Wanda is Scarlet Witch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a complicated kind of. I mean, not really, because they never even say Scarlet Witch.
Gotta turn the subtitles
in the show. Yeah, yeah, maybe it's snuck it in there. But it's that might not be a bad idea. I don't know. There's so many things I want to talk about. So one day, who knows? Maybe we'll have something where we could just shoot the shit about anything we want. But right now, it's Star Wars, and I still love it. I just, there's other stuff out there too, and it'll be interesting to see how these two properties under the same umbrella are gonna kind of take this. And there's a lot to look forward to with Star Wars, so we're gonna be talking about it, and I'm looking forward to it. So, guys, I think that'll do it for us because we have been going on a solid hour and a half now. Our council has grown. We've lost some people. We've grown. Brent never made it back, but I want to thank Brent for coming back, coming on the show for at least 10 minutes. I think he got some thoughts out, but who knows? Maybe he's got more he needs to talk about. Maybe he wants to talk about WandaVision at some point too. But we'll get those thoughts at some point. But I do appreciate these guys being here. We are going to have a very fascinating podcast here upcoming. Actually, I don't even know what the release order is going to be. I'm not going to tease it much, but Nettie has an amazing theory that we're going to talk about on the podcast. A really solid email that he sent us, a really awesome discussion to be had. So looking forward to that. But by this time, you've probably already heard it, so you already know about it. So appreciate you guys listening. Take care of yourselves out there, and may the Force be with you always.